So we took this initiative of announcing free education for every child. Let me just appreciate Kim's team, the Spirit of Mad team, who've been launched in Pakistan, who are now here for the last 2 years. It takes a lot of courage to get out of your country and to be somewhere else to launch your program. So thank you, Kim, that you've been very successful here already. And you have the greatest support of Pakistani community for being here. I would also like to thank the minister for being here, Murad Ras, a brilliant man, a very nice person. And we've had several meetings together. We've been sharing our experiences, and I'm very determined, and I'm also very hopeful that with this minister, the future of education is in safe hands. I'll just take about 5 to 10 minutes. Everybody knows that the Forman Christian College, which has been turned into a university now, is about 156 years old institution. Same goes for the Gordon College in Pindi, Murray College in Sialkot. You take Kinnaird College in Lahore. They're all about 70 years, 80 years old institutions. We talk about grammar school in Karachi, convent in Quetta. So all these schools which are here in Pakistan, universities, colleges and schools like Dayal Singh College, then we had the MAO College, Aligarh University, we got the Zwatran schools, Parsi schools. So all these education was being given by the private communities. Let me just highlight this, this sector. The education was being given by the private communities before 1971, pre-partition and before 1971. In 1971, these community colleges were nationalized by the government of Pakistan. In the era of Bhutto, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came in, so he nationalized all these schools and colleges. Then the departments came up, the ministries were made, unions were made, the teachers came in. So there was a lot of discouragement, regarding the private sector coming in. So now, when we talk about the issues which I faced as a minister back in 2002 were a long series of challenges which I know the current minister is also facing. We had a very, very less budget. I was only given 34 billion, sir. You might be getting more than 200 billion. My budget was 34 billion. 26 billion was the salary component. 6 billion was non-development, 1 billion was for the development. The schools, I'll focus more on Punjab actually. The schools which I was heading were 63,000 public schools, Sarkari schools. And out of 63, 43,000 had no boundary walls, no furniture, no fans, no electricity, no toilets, nothing at all. So there was a huge requirement of money. And the money that I required was 90 billion in 2002. And I was only given 1 billion to do my schools. And I had to also look after 424 colleges, 15 public universities, 8 educational boards, textbook board, and obviously education foundation. So we had no money. And I had to go from pillar to post to get this money. I went to my chief minister. Parvez Elahi was the chief minister. And he said, we don't have any money, so you need to go to the prime minister. So I went to the federal government, to the prime minister, Mr. Jamali. And I said, sir, I need some money. I need to do this, I need to do that. And Mr. Jamali said that, sorry, we don't have any money. So eventually I had to go to the World Bank to get some money, which I got that money. $300 billion was given to me for 3 years, $100 billion for every year. Sorry, $300 million. So we took this initiative of announcing free education for every child. My biggest challenge was the enrollment, the decreasing enrollment, high dropout rate. Pakistan had the biggest dropout rate in the world. Out of 9 million students, 4 million were dropped out every year. And this record, this statistic was recorded by the World Bank, by the UNICEF, and many other agencies. So it was a big embarrassment for the government of Punjab and Pakistan that we had such a huge. Now, why would these children would be dropped out? Why would they go back to their houses? Nobody knew that. It could be poverty. It could be lack of access, no infrastructure, and the schools weren't attractive. So students were shifting from the government schools to the private sector schools. So I needed to make my schools very attractive. But then there was no boundary wall. There was no desk. There was no chair. People were sitting on the tart thing. So it was a big, big challenge which I faced. But then again, we announced free education for every child. We announced free textbooks for every child. So stipends were also given to females, the female students, because we had a huge dropout amongst the female students only in the 15 districts of the south of Punjab, where parents thought that these female students should not be sent to schools, and they were brought back from grade 6, from grade 8, from the middle schooling sector. They were pushed back to their homes. So we thought that we're going to do women empowerment through giving stipends and free education to our children. So we did that. We announced a very strict monitoring system. We got about 800 people as new recruits, those Naib Subedars, to go around our schools. So in 5 years of time, which we spent in our government, the literacy rate from day one was 42%, and when I left, the literacy rate was 62%. So we had a quantum jump of, from 42 to 62%. Curricula was a big issue because we wanted to give quality education to our children. So for quality, we needed to have examination, teachers training, and obviously the curricula revamping. The curricula was the prerogative of the federal government. Now it is the prerogative of the provincial government. So we faced a little problem dealing with the federal minister of education. After the 18th amendment, now it has come down, the education has been devolved to the provinces. It has become sort of independent and autonomous, so there's no interference from the federal government. So curricula was the biggest issue, and nobody had ever worked on this curricula. Zubaida Jalal was the Minister for Education in those times. So she did a little revamping, and that revamping was done after 26 years. So our books were redundant. Nobody wanted to come to the government schools. Private sector was coming up very fast. They were more attractive. They had the modern curricula. So there was a competition between, in fact, there was no competition between the public and the private schools. So I wanted my government schools to be rated close to the private sector, because in my times, the government schools were Urdu medium schools, strictly Urdu medium, because we focused on the national language. But then English was a requirement. So we started English as a compulsory language from grade 1. Previously, it was done from grade 6. So we brought it down to grade 1. So we gave English as a compulsory language, maths as a compulsory subject, and free education, stipends, teachers training became compulsory. DSD was revamped. Nobody wanted to come for teachers training. They thought that teachers training was a punishment because the TADA was very less. There were no housing facilities for the women, and women could not get out of their homes, traveling far off from Chakwal, from Lahore, from Gujarat, from Mandi Bhawadeen, and their husband would not allow them to stay 7 days in a week in Lahore. So we changed the whole system. DSD was then strengthened. CEDA helped us, the Canadian agency. They gave us money and we started this on-the-job, non-stop teachers training, not in summers, throughout the year. So these challenges that we faced, we handled them well. And I'm sure same challenges would be dealt by the current minister also. Pakistan is huge, 4 provinces. Now we got Gilgit-Baltistan also. The population is huge. It's a humongous and a monstrous department. We're talking about 700,000 people working only in one single education department of Punjab only. It is one of the biggest ministries in the world, like the American ministries, like the Chinese, like the Indians. So I think if you have the leadership, if you have the commitment, and if you have the know-how, that what are the ground issues, only then you can design your policy. There have been many education policies in Pakistan which always got changed after every 10 years, after every change of the government. Anybody who came as a minister, he adopted his own policy. So there was nothing was constant. There wasn't any evaluation of any policy, what were the achievements and what were the drawbacks. So anybody who came just only worked in the school sector. But I strongly believe that it is a movement from a school to a college and from a college to a university. And this movement of a student has to be very swift. So schools are linked with colleges, and colleges are linked with universities. You cannot work in isolation. You can't put your focus on schools and forget about the colleges and universities. So it has to be a very systematic policy where you can achieve your results. The boys and the girls of Pakistan, they're brilliant. We've got excellent talent amongst boys and girls. I would go around the entire Punjab, travel the country, and I would see those children, amazing children. But the only issue is that if you put them in the right school, the right enabling environment, that child will excel. But if you don't give that child a desk or a chair, and he's studying under a tree, we call them the tree schools. In my times, I had 250 schools which are operating under a tree. I mean, nobody could ever think about schools working under the trees. But we had this problem. So we need to give access to our young children, to our young boys and girls who come from poor families. The rich community, they can afford the private sector education, but my focus was those children who were in the public schools. So we bridged the gap between the public and private. I never wanted that the public school children would think themselves as inferior students and the private sector as superior. So I bridged that gap. I brought English as a compulsory language, changed the curricula, changed the infrastructure, made the walls, gave them the furniture, gave them the best teachers, recruited new teachers. A new policy was made how to hire a new teacher. There was no restriction. So we said that a teacher has to be a graduate with 1 year of professional education, BA, B.Ed. So that was the order of day in those times. So I think that we need to get these kind of things like the World Olympiad, like the contest, like releasing a genius. We need to give this kind of opportunity to the children of Pakistan and Punjab. Why not? They also deserve modern education, education based on research. We need to have new books, new curricula, where we can make our children to be more successful, brilliant students by giving them the right enabling environment. I think that the government of Punjab, especially the Ministry of Education, has to adopt these kind of models. These models which are very successful models. These models which work throughout the world. The world is now adopting successful models, success stories. And I think with the presence of spirit of math, we have this opportunity which is now there. We need to pick up this opportunity. And I'm very determined and I'm very sure that the Minister of Education, Punjab, is focused on his work and has done his research. He knows what he has to do now. He needs a good team. So one suggestion which I would like to, last 2 minutes. Do I have 2 minutes? So my suggestion would be to the Ministry of Education that we need to take private sector as our partners with the government. Single-handedly, government cannot operate, cannot attain or achieve the literacy rates which we want to actually achieve. So government, private, both hand in hand, they have to get along, go along. Yes, there has to be a rationale about the fee structure, why not? It has to be fixed. But I think the private sector has to be taken along. I see many familiar faces sitting down there. I've been working with them, they've been working with me. They have been my partner in my mission which I adopted, and still I consider them as very valuable partners. So I think that our education is in safe hands with the leadership of Mr. Murad Ras. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Mr. James, for being here. Mr. Zurain and your entire team, Mr. Umar, for giving this a new idea to us, to our community, and to our society. Thank you so much, and have a great day.